Hello and welcome to our class Parent Let Go of Your Expectations. I'm happy to be here together with Sam. I met her last year in Sedona, and we talked about children and we talked about education, and I realized that she's one of the young mothers. She's one of the parents of the so-called New Age, and she has children of the New Age, how they are called right now. And then we decided to co-create something together. And this is our first class. I'm in Austria, in Europe. I have been working together with the spiritual world since more than 20 years. I have got the message to channel and to manufacture spiritual tools like angel symbols, angel essences. And there are so many for the children, especially for the children of the New Age, that I can spread it only by the help of people who are working with children or have little children, like Sam. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Ingrid. It felt like fate meeting each other in Sedona with having so much in common and having these different aspects of, how we're approaching, this new age with these kids and bringing both sides together, right? The practical side of what do we do in everyday situations, but this whole other side beyond the veil that we can't always see. And Ingrid just brings this insight and guidance and deeper understanding that really can help us deeply as parents to do the very best that we can. So I am here in Superior, Wisconsin, where it's very, very cold. I am a parenting coach. My passion is helping parents. I work a lot with mothers, helping them to do their own work, to do their own healing, because we can either pass on trauma or we can pass on healing, to create this space and environment for that to happen, and to give them the tools and the resources for those everyday moments to raise emotionally healthy kids. So that's my purpose and my mission, and I'm excited to be here with Ingrid and do this together.
It's very interesting because we talk of the children of the New Age, and there is a time gap between you and me. You could be my daughter. So I totally was raised in a different way than you were raised. And I was raised in a very traditional old style way. Today we talk about the children of the New Age and the parents of the New Age, and maybe a few words for this, because some people say, what are the children of the New Age? We should think about that we live... Laura.
Hi.
Could you turn off your micro, please, Laura? Thank you. Because the children of the New Age, they have been coming to our earth for more than 20, 30 years. And they come with a very high consciousness, many of them, not all. They have a very high consciousness, they have a high vibration. Some of them can remember past lives. Many of them can see the angels. They can see dead people. They can see the aura, the chakras. And so many parents cannot handle this. They say maybe this is just their idea, maybe this is fantasy. But the more the adults are also stepping into their own shift of consciousness, the easier it will become to understand the children and to support them. And therefore we call this series also about the teachers of the New Age, of course, and the parents of the New Age. It's not only about the children of the New Age, because children of the New Age need parents of the New Age and, of course, teachers and spiritual tools of the New Age. So this is a short explanation. And when we will talk in one of our classes about ADHD and highly sensitive children, and this is totally what we are talking about, because the children of today, most of them are highly sensitive. And for me, ADHD is just one form of being highly sensitive. But this will come in class number 4. So would you like to continue, please?
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about letting go of our expectations. This is a big one for us parents. But what are expectations? We all probably have a different idea of what they are and what they look like. But to make it really simple, it's just a strong belief that something will happen or will be the case in the future, that someone should achieve something, someone should do this, someone shouldn't do that. And before we even become parents, we have these expectations from ourselves and from others, everybody else around us, right? Our friends, our parents, our doctors, of what being a parent looks like, beginning at the birth, right? Like how we want this birth to go. Like, what's your birth plan? And I always thought that was so funny. I'm like, they're going to show up how they show up. Like, I'd rather have no expectations, so I'm not disappointed in this, experience, than being so set on one thing. And then when that doesn't happen, it's even harder to go through. But, we also have expectations about, where our child will sleep, what we will do with our kids, what we won't do with them. And soon we find out that things don't go as planned. So some of these sound like the shoulds, the musts, the have tos, the always. And for us parents with younger kids, this could be my child should sleep on his own, or my child should sleep in their own bed, or my child always interrupts me, or my child should get a 4.0. My child should get all A's and B's. So some of these expectations are positive. They're not all bad. While some are negative and they're too high or they're unrealistic and they actually limit our potential. And these are just subjective to each person and our own experience and what we all bring from our lives thus far.
Just sorry when I interrupt. Laura, just watch, go offline with your camera, please.
Wanted to join us today.
She wants to talk with us. Could you switch off your camera, please, Laura? Okay. So she's again. Come. Okay.
There we go. Oh, hold on.
Are you still here? Yeah. Sam, are you still here?
All right, we'll get it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, the voice from the background. Can you activate your camera?
Oh, here. Got it. I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. I'm back.
Laura, please switch off your camera, please.
Turn off. Turn off.
Yes.
Okay, I turn off.
There we go. We got it. Anything from you, Ingrid, thus far?
About the expectation. I think it has a lot to do with our belief patterns and how we grew up and our old thinking patterns, because it's about the expectation how we have to be or how a child has to be. And sometimes I realized that the parents grow up that child or educate their child like they wanted to have been as a child. So if they couldn't meet the expectation of their children, they try to bring their own children in the same direction they could not fulfill. So sometimes there's a little bit of frustration on her own life or the inner child, because inner child adults is always the same. And the pressure they make on their own children is the same pressure they got from their parents.
Absolutely. That's being
Yeah.
passed down, and then we're living that vicariously through our own kids. You see it a lot, I feel like, in sports and activities and things like that, this push to excel and, you know, be as good as the parent was or be better than the parent was. And, you know, it can kind of have the negative opposite effect at some point.
Yeah.
So just
In
because
many-
we go ahead.
Yeah, just in many cases, this is on the subconscious level. They don't really realize that. And sometimes when I work with adults for their children, in the coaching, for example, I always check, is it really the problem of the child, or is it the problem of the parents and they think it's the child's problem? Yeah.
Yeah, I can completely agree
And
with
then
that.
you have to work differently. But in most cases, it's not the child itself or himself or herself, it's about the parent. And not all parents are willing to look at their own problems or their own expectations. They are thinking something is wrong with their child, but there's not something wrong. There's nothing wrong with the child. It's about their own view. Yeah. And so you have to work differently when the child has problems. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with all of that. You know, and not all expectations are bad, right? There's some good ones, there's some healthy ones, but any expectation that is held too tightly, this can turn into a negative experience for us and our child, right? It's not just us, it's impacting them as well. And this can block our peripheral vision, right? It's limiting our perspective to only see this one option and not all of these other possibilities. So I like to think of it as having these blinders on, right? We're just like so laser focused on this is the only way. This is, you know, this is what has to happen. And it's very, very limiting and stressful for us and our kids.
Absolutely. Yes, and there's also a kind of competition between parents and then between the children, but it starts mostly at the parents because the expectation is for competition, and they also won't accept that their child is not as good as the neighbor's child or the sister's child. So it is a lot of pressure that is on children because of their parents' problems.
Yes. Right. Yeah. Our concerns with everybody else and how we look and how we act, and not always what's in the best interest of our kids, but what is so and so going to think when my kid does X, Y, and Z, or when my kid doesn't do this. Oh, then it can be really hard on the ego to to have that happen. And when we base our happiness on our kids fulfilling these things for us, we just set ourselves up for even greater letdown. Because when those things don't happen, we feel even worse when they're failed to be met. So I love this quote from Dr. John A. Johnson. He says, when unfulfilled expectations involve failure of other people to behave the way you expect them to, the disappointment also involves resentment. Parents assume their children should obey their expectations because adults have the authority to run a household. I thought that was really enlightening, and it kind of covers this common theme that I hear quite often in my work is, well, I'm the parent and I know better. I'm older and I know more. And a really cool experience from my own life is having some really insightful sessions about my daughters and how they came here to teach me, right? They may be in these little bodies, but they are still much older and wiser than I am. So that really changed my perspective of like, yes, I may have been alive here longer than they have, but it doesn't mean that I know better than they do.
Yeah, because we don't know what experience they bring from past lives.
Right.
We don't know what's their life purpose. And it might be such a different life purpose than our life purpose that it cannot match together. And so I think our aim is to support them, to understand them, to meet on eye level, and to treat them like old wise souls in a little body.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think this is sometimes challenging for parents because they don't have this kind of view. They think they are little and you have to tell them and you have to educate them and you have to do anything. But to meet them on a different level. May I shortly explain? I will talk about program 1 and program 2. Program 1 is everything in our life we can see, we can measure, we can experience, we can realize, we can understand. And there is program 2, which we cannot see, maybe which we cannot really understand. Program 1 is the physical part of our life, and program 2 is the metaphysical part of our life. So in program 1, we think we are the good ones, and we trust and we try and we do and we work every day, but we forget that we are also part of program 2. So when we realize that in program 2, our child is an old wise soul with a special aim to develop his aspects and all these things it brings into this life, it's a different kind of view to the child. So we always should think about program 1 and program 2 to understand life better. And even if you talk about medicine or homeopathy, I know many doctors, they say homeopathy is nothing. It doesn't work. It is nonsense. Yeah, but it works on level 2. It works on program 2. And therefore, I think in our time, when we talk about the children of the New Age and the parents of the New Age, they have one foot in program 1 and the other foot in program 2. And we have to step in both programs, yeah? And it should be balanced. And this is new for many people because they are only in program 1 with their mind and expectation and everything. So it's hard for them to realize that our children, especially the children of the New Age, are high vibrating souls with a high vibrating consciousness from program 2, living in a program 1 body. And when we think of this program 1 and program, it's easier to understand and it's easier to support them or to, not to love them because we also love them in program 1, but to accept them maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely made things easier for me of, getting my foot right in both doors and understanding that balance of maybe what my child is doing right now is not what I like. It's not meeting my expectations. But then having, getting rid of this program 1 and opening that up to program 2 to say, what is the lesson that they are trying to teach me here, right? What do I need to heal within myself? Because that is a gift from them, really, to say, I'm going to show up for this person and they may not like what I do all the time, but it's going to help them to learn and it's going to help them to grow versus just being in this program 1 where all we're looking at is behavior and control and a lot of those things that are very limiting. So I have moments myself where I bring myself back to it of like, what is this trying to teach me, right? What do they want me to learn right now?
Do you agree when I show some slides about the difference between the adults and the children?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I have prepared some slides. Let go of your expectations. Before this incarnation, you have been in another dimension of divine existence. People often describe this level as heaven. In this dimension, you used to exist as a multidimensional being, not knowing time or space. equipped with divine awareness. You communicate with the angels, the ascended masters, or other multidimensional beings on one level. But one day you decide to come back to Earth to begin another new incarnation. Together with your higher self, your closest guardian angel, and other spiritual beings, you discuss your new life plan. Only for people who believe in past lives. You decided which of your potentials you would bring with you, which one should be strong, buried, or hidden because you want to develop it. You also decided which challenges or difficulties you would have to face in your new life to make you grow and develop. And of course, you also decided which people would accompany you and who you would like to share your experiences and learning tasks with. This naturally included the woman and the man who would become your biological parents. But of course, it also included the boy or girl who would become your biological child. It's not only in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly the point. Your parents are souls like you. Your child, your children are souls like you. To become a human person, your child also pulled the veil of oblivion over his or her awareness, with all the mistakes and weaknesses that make up human life. From a higher level, you made this agreement with your child, with your children, before their incarnation, probably before your own incarnation. Do you now understand better your lives, your child's life plan? Are you now getting a new understanding of the expectations placed on your child? Do you understand now that your expectations for your child have something to do with you and not necessarily with him or with her? And every time your child does not fulfill your expectations, just think, your expectations do not necessarily correspond with its life plan. Try to look at this fact from time to time from a higher point of view. If you need help, ask your spiritual guidance for support, for example, the angels. They can support you with the spiritual tools that can make challenges easier for you. And these are the angel tools I have got from the spiritual world. I have been channeling and manufacturing them for more than 20 years. And there are a lot of them for children, for the inner child, and of course also for the parents. And Sam has experienced a little bit.
My very own, which are amazing. I use this every day when I get ready. Boosts my aura here. And then me and my girls, we use these angel cards quite often. They love to play with them. They just love to like do their own thing, and we'll play. They're almost like games, what you have written in here, to like interactive with your kids. And I am always amazed. It never ever fails me when we do these activities and they show me the card they picked and I read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, this couldn't be more perfect. Like it's always exactly what you need. And our kids are born so intuitive as well. So it's cool to see them involved with this too.
Yeah. So we live in a time of a big shift of consciousness, a shift of vibration, and everything is turning up and nothing is like it has been 20 years before, 10 years before. So our children are growing in a very new world. And this world is also totally different from what we have experienced for many, many years. And in this time of the big change, the angel, the spiritual world is closer than has ever been. So we nearly can touch them, and many people can see the angel, can hear the angels or the ascended masters, of course, and many children also are in connection, in conscious connection, and they don't understand why we cannot see their friends, yeah,
Yeah,
their
and so
Asian
often,
friends.
yeah, parents, we shut that stuff down. We say, "Oh, you didn't see that. Oh, you didn't hear that," right? And
Yeah.
then they start to question themselves, like, "Wait a minute." And they come so connected, right? And it's kind of this conditioning from us and being disconnected and thinking that they should be disconnected as well, that we can kind of shut that off for them.
Yeah, and I think you are the generation that is also called the children of the new age, although you are grown up, you're an adult, but your generation is the beginning of the children of the new age. So I think it's very important for you and your friends or mothers in your age to open up this field for the children to feel safe, to feel understood and everything, because they teach us a new language. They open up a new world for us, so we can get insights. We get new insights in spirituality, and I have, I have some, I brought some ideas or impulses how you can use my spiritual tools. Let go of your expectation, and if you have my symbol cards, you see, you can get them on Amazon. It comes with a booklet. And I have to mention that they are energized. So they contain really pure angel energy. It's not only a sheet of paper that you can copy. If you copy, it doesn't work because I have to channel the energy into these symbols. I have a short exercise or how you can use the angel symbols if you have a too high expectations. So take your time and make sure you're not disturbed. Put your mobile phone aside. Sit down at the table or on the floor together with your child. And if you wish, you can turn on some relaxing music. Now take the angel symbols for children. You see them right here. These are 21 energized symbol cards. They are used in many different countries worldwide. Even in Mexico, I know there are some Mexican people online, and also in Portugal. Laura is here. She helps me a lot in Portugal. And we have a lot of experience because these symbols have been existing since, I think, 20 years. And we have a lot of feedback and experience with the symbols. It's not just an idea, but it's really a spiritual tool. So take the symbols and place the deck of cards face down in front of you in the shape of a semicircle. Invite your child to draw an angel card. You do not have to explain any detail. Simply say, let's have a look at which angel is important right now, because the child feels the expectation. It doesn't feel very good, and you also realize you have a too high or a wrong expectation to your child or on your child, so you can't do this together. Ask your child to place the symbol on the table or on the floor and tell your child the name of the angel who is here for him or for her. The angel name you can see. Can you see it here? Niniel is the angel name of this symbol. So as soon as you take the symbol card into your hand or the child, you are connected with this angel, with this children angel. Now place a piece of paper with the name and date of birth of your child below the symbol. In this case, this is Nuria. This is the little girl of one of my team's ladies. And she also took a picture with Nuria. And now think of your burdening situation connected to your expectations. And now draw an angel symbol for yourself. Mother or father or teacher or whoever. Put it next to your child slightly apart. read the name of the angel and connect with the angel in your mind. So Midael, for example, of course you draw your angels. They are different. It's just an example. Then place a piece of paper with your name and a piece of paper with the name of your child, and add the date of birth so that you can define for whom the angel energy should work. Now ask your child to draw another symbol, one for you both to share. Read the angel's name again, explaining to your child that this angel has come to you both. Place the symbol with the others, creating a triangle. Now place a piece of paper with your name and the date of birth and of your child below the symbol. You see the triangle. If your child wants to, it can draw the three angels while you take the booklet. This is a booklet. You have the explanation of each of the 21 symbols. Read the appropriate messages of the symbols in the booklet. Reflect and think about what the angel symbols want to tell you about you and your expectations to your child. Because the first symbol was of your child. So this is what your child needs, or what's your child's life plan. And the second symbol, what about you? Why do you expect this? Or what do you not see looking to your child or on your child? And the third is your relationship to your child or with your child, explaining the expectations. So then leave your symbol triangle for several days, asking the angels for recognition, support, and transformation of the blockages. Your child may also decide how long the angel triangle should remain. Thank the angels whenever you remove the triangle. But you also can't do this ritual on your own because you have your inner child. Maybe at the end of the day, reflecting on a burdening situation of the day, then you draw all the three cards, putting them down appropriately. Of course, you can also apply three symbols for burdening situations which have nothing to do with expectations, but for example, with anger, rage, or disappointments, or something like this. And at the end, always don't forget to thank the angels for their support from time to time. Put a bunch of flowers on a table which you dedicate to the angels. So this is a short exercise how you can be supported. And it's not only an exercise with the symbols on a table. If you are highly sensitive, you will realize that from this point, the angel will start to support you and to show up the blockages behind the blockages, or the topic behind the topic. So the symbols are messengers for you. And if you're open and even if you don't feel the energy, if you take this card, maybe you cannot feel it, it doesn't matter. It's important about the message, and that you leave it for a while, and you will realize that your behavior will change, and maybe also the behavior of your child, because also your child has to learn a lot. It's an old soul in a little body, so it came back here to earthly life also to make a difference to past lives. So it's not only the child, also the child has to learn, but it's in a different way that we have to learn or had to learn when we were little children. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that exercise. I did it with my 5.5-year-old, and it was absolutely wonderful. Like I said, no mistakes every time. You see exactly what you need to see and exactly what you need to hear in the right time. So thank you for that exercise, Ingrid. I think it's great.
My pleasure. Yeah, you can learn more about if you join my Facebook group. But now I would like to ask to continue Sam, because I'm sure she has some more information for us, or something to close, or
Yeah, I always have more. That's my problem, is like trying to condense things I could go on, but you know, when we talk about where these expectations come from and how things are passed down, right? I always like to walk people through their own past experiences because it's really enlightening to think about the way our parents impacted us and how that carries down to the way we're impacting our children. Is it a positive impact? Is it a negative impact? So what expectations did your parents have of you growing up, right? And now looking back as an adult, how did they impact you, right? Was it this good, positive, loving, supportive impact? Or was it maybe more negative? And which ones are you still holding on to that are causing you pain, right? That inner child part of us can still be holding on to those burdens that maybe at the time we couldn't integrate. We didn't really realize, we didn't have the awareness. But as adults, they can still have this power over us. Maybe it's just this, you know, a need for achievement or need for recognition. And which ones might you be passing on to your kids that may not be in their best interest? So I always love to start, you know, when you're working with parents and kids, like Ingrid was saying, working with the parents and our own stuff first, because that's where it all begins, and seeing how these things have carried down, because, you know, parents of the new age and the children of the new age now, things are changing. And this is part of it, is we're willing to do the work. We're willing to look at ourselves. We're willing to break these patterns that have been going on for generations and say, hey, wait a minute, this didn't feel so good. This didn't work so great. How can I do things differently now with my kids? What do I need to adjust? What do I need to change so that, you know, they can grow up being more emotionally healthy? But sometimes we can get so stuck in our own expectations and things having to be a certain way. We'll use bedtime as an example. That's a big one for parents if they have younger children. And we can end up putting this ahead of our relationship with our kids, right? This is where the need to be right can get us into trouble. We get so stuck on that when they're not in bed at this certain time. Oh my gosh, now we're super stressed out. Now we're maybe are doing or saying things that we don't want to do, we don't want to say, but we're just kind of out of control. But being flexible can save us a lot of unnecessary stress. And Tony Robbins says the problem with expectations in a relationship is that they're just like an opinion. Everyone has one, and they don't always match up to the other person's thoughts, right? So it's not, yes, there are things our kids that are necessary for them to do, right? But it doesn't always mean that our opinion or our way of doing things is better than our children's. And when this happens, it can turn us against each other instead of us being willing to work together. So some of the questions that are really beneficial to ask in these situations, you know, when you identify this expectation, you know, something that's causing you stress, tension. Number one, is this expectation, you know, me being so set on it, is this worth emotional turmoil that it might cause my child? Number two, is it realistic for my child's age and development, right? Some of our expectations are just not developmentally appropriate for what our child is able to do. If you think of a toddler and our expectation is they should sit at the dinner table and be still and be quiet and eat their food, well, at that point in their development, they don't have any self-control. That prefrontal cortex in the brain here is not going to be fully developed till their early 20s. So once we have the right information about, well, is my child actually capable of doing this? You know, we can adjust our expectations accordingly. Number three, is this in the best interest of my child, or is it about me being in control and me being right, which a lot of those feelings unconsciously are passed down from our parents because we didn't have a chance to be in control. We didn't have a chance to be right. And then we can project that onto other people instead of taking, responsibility for it now as an adult and saying, this is something I need to work on. Number 4, how can I appreciate my child instead of imposing my expectations on them, right? Maybe they're not doing something in the way you want them to do it, but how can you show your appreciation in another way of, hey, that was a really great idea. Why don't we try it this way? Number 5, what am I trying to achieve by wanting these expectations to be fulfilled? What emotions and beliefs are under them? Number 6, if my expectations are healthy and age appropriate for my child, how can I create more flexibility in the way they are achieved? Maybe things don't have to be done in a certain way at this exact time, but you'll get a similar outcome, right? So giving them choices and options like brushing teeth, right? It's not an option for any of us. It's just basic hygiene. Our kids might not want to do that. That's a healthy expectation that we have of this is something we need to do, but how do you want to do it? Where do you want to do it? Do you want to do it over here? Do you want to do it over there? Do you want to have me help you? Do you want to do it yourself? Just giving them some autonomy so that you're not getting into power struggles with them over this. Number 7, your kids are not mind readers. And even if your expectations are completely valid, like brushing their teeth, how can you communicate these in a clear and kind way? And look for ways to get your kids' ideas on how to achieve this. You will be amazed when you start asking them, what do you think? Right? Like, how do you think we could do this? They've got some really creative and unique ways of doing things when you give them that opportunity. And the last one, what do your kids need from you to make them happen? Right? Sometimes we think they should be able to do all these things on their own, right? We push them. We want them to be ahead of the game. And, like Ingrid said, this competition of well, my kid's not doing this yet, or they need to be better than other people. To let go of that expectation, but to also say, how can I support my child? What do they need from me to make this happen? Do they need me to change my energy? Number 1, do they need me to change, my tone of voice with them? Do they need me to be just more flexible? And hey, we can do it now, or we can do it in 20 minutes, So get curious about where your own expectations come from, right? Because these are things that are being passed on generationally. Question them and acknowledge your disappointment when they don't happen. It's okay that you're bummed, that you're sad, that you're angry when these things don't happen, but be willing to question them and get curious about what's underneath there. And thank your child that they brought this up so that you can deal with it, that you can heal it within yourself. All right, my last couple things here are so when we ask the question, is this realistic for my child's age and development, we take a step back and we create this gap to get curious and to be open to new information. So, referencing back to, expecting that a toddler should be able to sit still and be quiet, when we know that they don't have the self-control to do that, right, then we can adjust those expectations so they fit our children much better. We're less stressed. But what if we let go of some of these expectations of the shoulds our kids should do, like sit still, be quiet, do what they are told, do what they said they would do, obey our every commandment, control their emotions, see things from our point of view, even though they're littles and they're not adults, excel at things even if they aren't developmentally capable of it, or if they're not interested. Going to sleep on time, not having an attitude with us, knowing what the right thing to do is. There's a lot of ways these expectations show up in our lives, in the lives of our kids. So I want you to imagine for a second that all of those expectations, all of those shoulds, those have tos, they're gone, right? They have disappeared. Like, you're not even capable of thinking those thoughts anymore. It's one of my favorite teachings from Byron Katie is, who would you be without the thought, right? So if this expectation is your thought, how would you act? What would you do, right? And our problem isn't so much with what our kids are doing or not doing, but how are we being, right? How are we interacting with them? And are we willing to say, you know, I was wrong about that, and I'm open to reconsidering it, right? Then this also creates this gap of new possibilities and experiences, and ones that we might not have known that we needed. But they're there to help us grow, and they're there to help us learn. And I think that's the best part of all of this, is when you're willing to put yourself in, like Ingrid talked about, program 1 and program 2, you just have a much broader awareness, and the small things can start to teach you instead of maybe annoying you so much and saying, hey, maybe this needs to happen in my life, or maybe this needs to happen in my child's life for me to grow, for them to grow. So I think that is the beauty of it. Ingrid, any final thoughts?
Very, very well explained. Very well explained. I think it's very important to see it from the point of view of the parent, because it's not always easy in daily life, and I understand young children, but also parents, that they have their limitations because they have a stressful life. They have to work, they have to get out to school or to kindergarten on time. And so I admire all parents who are patient and try to understand not only their own point of view, but also to change and to get into the mind of the child, explaining or exploring how the child is feeling, why the child is reacting like this. And of course, everything has limitations. We have limitation, and also the expectation to our child are always limited. So I think it should be balanced between what we need as parents, what the children need as children, and that we can get together or go together through our time, through our lifetime as family. And my children are adults, and I will become grandmother very, very soon. So I will see it on a new aspect, and I realize when I educated my children, I didn't have the knowledge I have today, because it was a different time, and I didn't have the insights also to the spiritual aspects. So I think to grow up children has to be a mixture between being practical, but also being open for the spiritual side or the spiritual part of your life, to combine it, to bring it together. And I think love, of course, is the most important, but if we're aware of the topic of expectations, and that they cannot always be fulfilled, because it's not always good for the children to fulfill our expectations, it makes us more tolerant, and it gives us a different way to look at ourselves, but also to look on our children. And you have really, really explained it very well. You a mother, but not only a mother, you're a teacher, you're a coach, and you come from practical life every day. So this is what I really like when I listen to your talking.
Yeah, it's so great to, like I said, be able to combine the two for us to come together and hit both sides, program 1 and program 2, and have this balance on each end. So my encouragement for anybody watching this, if you're a parent, is to just be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself, be gentle with your children, right? You both have come here for your life's purpose. And I'm going to add this story in here because it feels like the right time when we're talking about life purpose and expectations. This is a story from Dr. Sue Morter. And she says, imagine yourself at this bus stop before you come to Earth, and everyone is there and they're talking about what are you going to go learn, right? And someone's like, I'm going to go learn about generosity. And everyone's like, oh, cool, awesome. What are you going to go learn about? And you're like, well, I'm going to go learn about forgiveness. And they're like, okay, well, what kind of forgiveness? And you're like, I've already done a level 1 forgiveness. Like, I'm going to a level 10 forgiveness. Like, this is going to be a big one. And they're like, well, how are you going to do that? And you're like, I don't know. I guess someone would have to do something really terrible to me for me to have to go learn this lesson on forgiveness. And then they're like, well, who's going to do that for you? And no one raises their hand. No one's willing to do that. And it's silent for a while. And finally, someone raises their hand and they say, I will do that for you. I'll be that person in life so that you can learn the lessons that you needed to learn. And you're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That's so wonderful of you to do. This analogy was a big perspective change for me, and you can relate it to your kids of these things that drive you crazy. It might not be on this level 10 forgiveness, but it can be on the smaller things of them coming here to teach us, that we're all here working together to learn our lessons, like in this schoolhouse, if you want to call it. So really being aware of what is this trying to teach me? But don't let your expectations of what your kids or other people, for that matter, whoever it is, don't let them get in the way of what you feel like they should or shouldn't be doing. And you get so flustered that you're not in the present moment, right? Because that's where our kids live all the time, right? And that's where they're always inspiring us to come back with them. So that is my encouragement for you, is that, expanded awareness and perception of maybe there's something more going on here, and I need to be open to it, and to, like I said, just be gentle with yourself and gentle with them, and love yourself through the process.
Thank you so much. I think everything is said for today. It was a profound knowledge you shared with us. And I want to encourage you really to see your children, who they are, why they are here, which lesson they bring for you, for themselves, of course. And we should support them, but we also should be open to learn from them. They are our teachers and we are their teachers. So it doesn't matter how little or how old they are, if their body is small or big. We are all souls in different bodies, and a different awareness, in a different consciousness, coming together, learning from each other, supporting each other, and loving each other. So I would say thank you for the day, Sam. It was nice to talk with you. And we prepare our next class for the 24th of March. This class will be recorded, so you can hear it again or you can recommend it to your friends. If you have questions, you can join us in our Facebook groups. You can send us an email, and we are happy to be back again and wish you all the best in the meantime. I have to say bye-bye.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, everybody. We'll hopefully see all of you back on March 24th.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.